On today's episode of the Sales Factor podcast, we have Nick Beecroft. He has been in sales for over 10 years. Now, he started his career in recruitment and now has been head of sales, building teams in the recruitment technology space. Now, he's super passionate about delivering value to his clients and partners, but also building long-term relationships that are built on trust and satisfaction. So I'm super excited to have him on the show. Let's get into it. Nick, what is the biggest problem or the biggest challenge in sales that you're finding right now?
Well, there are a number of challenges right now. There's probably two which might roll up into the kind of main issue, right? So, the main issue I think that we're facing right now is twofold, and as I say, they kind of roll into one another. The first being the main challenge is it's relationships. I don't think people understand as much anymore how to build relationship, and I think relationship is going to be the biggest differentiator for salespeople for the next 5, 10, 15 years. I think as to the subject of the entire conversation is, will tech take over sales relationships? I think it will for those who allow it. It won't for those who don't lose the key basic skills that you need as a salesperson, because ultimately the thing that tech can never replace is going to be person-to-person conversation and relationship. And the other thing that rolls into that, I think, which is understanding tonality and understanding, like having the emotional intelligence to understand and read a room, are going to be key challenges and key problems that people are facing and will continue to face. And that feeds into engaging demos, allowing people to invoke emotion, to feel like they are using the software you're pitching them to solve a problem. And it all feeds into the challenge of not understanding how to build relationships, I think.
Massive, absolutely massive. I think it's such a big topic. I mean, when I first entered into sales, what was drilled into us was relationships. The more people you know, I remember deals coming through where I would have a relationship with someone, they'd be like, listen, like we're not going to be recruiting for a long time. And then a year later, bang, out of the blue, an email comes through, hey, Aaron, we're recruiting now. And I'm just like, yes, come on.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. There's a couple of things obviously you said there, like will tech take over relationships? Obviously, we can definitely dive into that. But why do you think that having strong relationships will be for the future? Like, give us a bit more context into your thinking.
Well, yeah. So a little bit to the point that you just made. It was face to face. It was the way we knew it. No one believed that a remote working world, certainly not in our industry, right? In sales and recruitment and that kind of space, like anyone that's involved in that kind of world, no one. I mean, it just wasn't done. Like, you suggested working from home one day and you'd just see the face of your boss like, huh? It's like, no, we're together. And some of that was great, some of that was toxic, right? And the challenge now is that we've hired a generation of grads and young salespeople who have never known the world prior. So it is the expected way now that they work from home 2, 3, 4 days a week. And I believe, probably an unpopular opinion across parts of the market, and maybe a silent majority, as my belief, would probably think similarly as I think, that is a massive issue for the future of sales as an industry, because if you're not together, there are massive benefits. Yes, there are absolutely benefits from a work-life balance perspective to working from home, but I also believe you have to put in the hard yards to earn your stripes, to understand the role that you're doing and do it and perform it at a level that you can comfortably go and do that elsewhere. But by not being together, I think it's feeding into this challenge that I've spoken about. And by not being together, I think it also leaves enormous gaps in expertise, skill, culture, ability to do the job at the highest possible way, level that you possibly could. And you just miss enormous gaps for information on deals, information on clients, cross-selling opportunities, learning and development. Earning potential is left on the table, you know. My belief is the sales team should be together more than they should not, and that's the best way to attack the market, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've always been in, the office up until about 3 years ago when I worked for Hawk. So it was, when COVID obviously happened for sure. Yeah, had to go remote. Right, fine. Um, but there's a huge upside of being in a team where that hunter mentality, everyone's together, everyone's like transfer of information, looking at the CRM and upskilling in different ways. I could hear the person next to me on the phone. I could take what they've said, implement it into my own. So I think from a self-development and skills perspective, yeah, it's awesome. Like I think you can't get away from it. Again, the other one, there's pros and cons for both, right? I think working from home. I think there's a lot of distraction at home for sure. So you have to be super, super structured and very focused on what you do. But why do you feel then that impacts like building stronger relationships? Like, because people might be listening to this now and say, well, I work from home. I build strong relationships. Like, why do you feel like working in the office or being a part of a team face to face will not generate relationships between the team, but from an external standpoint?
I don't think. Look, what I'm not saying before this goes out. There's nothing worse than seeing a thread of comments on TikTok or YouTube. It's the quickest way to find out how much weight you've put on. It's the quickest way to find out how inadequate you are. But before that happens, I'm not suggesting you can't build solid and meaningful relationships with your colleagues and your clients and your peers. I'm not saying that from home. You absolutely can, but I don't think it can be argued that you lose an element of deeper, meaningful relationship when you're not together. Like, would you still, many people are lucky enough to still have the best friends that they met when they were 5, when they went into school, right?
Yeah.
It's not coincidence, right? It's because you spent a deep and meaningful period of time learning the nuances of who they are, their quirks, their humour. You lost some friends and you found your group, but you found your group through commonalities. And it can't be, in my opinion, it cannot be argued that you will have deeper, more meaningful relationships with anyone by spending time with them. Now, that's not to say that can't happen in 3 days together and 2 days at home. Of course it can. Absolutely. Before everyone goes mental and starts calling me some old school.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. But you definitely can. Like, no questions you can. But I just believe it to be stronger and more meaningful and more opportunity for good things to happen. I actually equate it to, if you have a scalable process, do more of it.
Yeah.
So if you have a scalable way of building a relationship, do more of it. Yeah. And if that means, if you have that one day a week where everyone's together and it's brilliant and the energy's great and everyone's pumped and everyone's doing their job and everyone's learning, do more of it. It's a fairly easy equation.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think there's definitely a hybrid approach, a blend between working in the office and working at home. I mean, I think sometimes, like, and my hands are up. Sometimes I can get lazy for sure. Sometimes I can get distracted and be like, oh, do you know what? I could maybe do an afternoon nap, or I could maybe spend an hour and a half in the gym, and do you know what I mean? Knowing I've got other stuff. But then again, I make it up by working in the night. Yes, I'm a business owner, so it's maybe a little bit different. But I also think then, and we touched on it earlier with technology and AI and automation and that sort of stuff coming through, like, if we know that building relationships with people is key face to face, I think, yes, you can, as humans, it's human nature to feel that bond face to face and build more of a deeper relationship than, I guess, through screen. Like, I've met you multiple times at events, and even when me and Sean were in the car, you walking down doing a video in Birmingham. I was like, hey, Nick, there he is. But with tech coming in and people using it, do you think that will take over the relationship? Do you think that's going to try and do a lot of the heavy lifting for people?
Nah, I think you see these things often, right? Something new comes in. And people have predicted the death of recruitment as an industry, for example, forever, right? As long as I've been in it, in any capacity. Anyone I've ever met who was in it in the 80s, the 90s, the noughties, like, it's been predicted that the next new thing will kill it, and it never does. And I genuinely believe it's because at its core, it's a human interaction business. And what we usually find is it's a pendulum, right? So it's the standard kind of, some people go all in, then the industry catch up, and then everyone goes that way, and it swings so far that way that it has to swing back eventually, and then we'll find ourselves back in the middle before the next revolution and the next death of recruitment, right? And it will continue that cycle forever, and recruitment will never die. It's fundamental. The people part of the business will never die, but businesses will die if they lose that.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we keep human interaction and face-to-face at the core of what we do, and that's not to say we don't dilute it ever so slightly and find a hybrid world, which we've done and we're doing. But as long as we keep people at the centre of what we do, I don't think it will ever die. We can use it, like, actually the opportunity, it presents an enormously, like a hugely exciting opportunity, actually, because with the inclusion of new tech and the development and the pace in which AI and machine learning is moving, it presents a huge opportunity where you have an enormous amount of efficiency, but that's only useful if you use that time that you now gain back effectively. And if you apply that into human interaction and relationship, you can do more while letting the tech take away a lot of the mundane and the repetitive that you used to have to do.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think and with tech, it's using it potentially to get your foot through the door. For agreed. I think, if you can use tech to, like you say, get rid of those mundane admin tasks or the things that eat up your time to then get your foot through the door. But relationships at the key of it. I mean, I know I've done placements recently where they probably wouldn't have gone through if I didn't spend the time meeting them face to face or really building that relationship with them, knowing them inside and out. Not even talking about the job being presented, but stuff outside, like really getting to know that person so they feel a level of trust. And they can ask me, "Oh, I've got these two opportunities. What do you think?" And rather than me pushing them for my position, like, "Well, listen, you said X, Y, and Z to me. You said your goals are X, Y, Z. Your ambitions are this. Like, take me away from it. Which one do you really feel is gonna get you there?" And it's just it's negating, but it's that relationship's at a level where they feel the trust to be able to ask those questions rather than being more transactional. And I think that's where then the tech can definitely have an adverse effect. If you're recruitment and sales, whatever, and you're literally just using tech to do all your automation, all your emails, all your outreach and everything, and not really building that relationship with people, then deals are going to drop off. And I think, like I said earlier, if you look at when COVID happened, I don't want to harp on about COVID.
I'm going to leave the podcast if we start talking about COVID. I'm out.
God. but the reason why video went skyrocket, Zoom, Teams, whatever, was because humans need that interaction. Like, we are creatures of groups and forming groups and interacting with each other on a daily basis. Even from a psychological level, like, you could be with someone and you feel certain ways beside them, their energy, how they interact, their micro expressions that you don't necessarily focus on, but you pick up and you can read that person. I think sometimes, yes, you can get over video, but that's why I think video and tech went up so big, because we missed that human interaction. Again, same with personal branding and pushing that forward. But yeah, Absolutely. It's interesting. What do you feel then? Because you mentioned at the start, like, relationships with the future is going to be the key to people's success. So tell me a bit more around, because you mentioned that the generation of people coming through are very much online. They're a bit different than, I guess, like me and you sales from 10 years ago. So what do you see the future of tech really impacting the new salespeople that are coming through?
First thing I'll say is, it's not. I don't think it's profound to suggest that relationships will be the differentiator. Right? I don't. It's no different now. And if you look at any business ever in the time that we've been in the working world, and before us and before that again, like, you'll get different types of people with different levels of ambition that want to do different things, right? And that's fine. So you've got, you stand up, you've got your high performers, you've got those in the middle, you've got the engine room in the middle, then you've got the low performers, and nothing will ever change. But there will always be a common theme amongst those who are high performing. Typically, there will always be a common theme. They are more relationship driven, they put the hard yards in, and they take the pain, and they sacrifice other things. There is no two ways about it. Whether people like it or don't like it, you don't get to the top of your career without sacrificing other things, whether that be time, whether that be personal things, whether that be going out and drinking, like whatever that might be. Like, you channel and you funnel everything into this, and typically that's all built around relationships and doing, again, scaling it, doing more of it. But I think that's going to be the fundamental thing, isn't it? It's going to be giving people a culture they want to be part of. It's going to be giving them the tools to make them more successful. But it's also, it's got to be showing those who've never known it that there is another way that might be worth exploring. Because if there is a generation of people coming through that have never known the benefits of always being together or being together more, then you don't know what you don't know. Similar to any standard sales process, people don't know what they don't know. You go into a sales process, you show them a demo, you show them what you show them. They don't know what they don't know. You teach them, you've got to show them the way, and that feeds into the relationship piece. It's understanding, teaching them the osmosis of learning with people around them, the value that brings through learning demos and picking up words and selling opportunities, and the way people pitch something that's slightly different to the way you do it, but offers some value and more insight. And that can't happen if you're sitting at home in your room, which I get is ironic because we're both sitting in our own rooms at the minute, right? I get
that. I mean, I'll put this out in a year's time, and we won't be in the office. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like I said earlier, I'm a replica of the people that were above me when I first joined sales. Right, I listened to them, and everyone was on meeting people face to face. That was a key metric that how many meetings can we get face to face? Even last week, I picked up a new role exclusively with a client that, we spoke multiple times on the phone. We had built up a good relationship, but we had never met. And when I went and met him, then I got access to the role. We, developed all that out, which was awesome. But do you think then salespeople now, do you think that they see the value of really building that relationship face to face, or are they even being taught?
I feel like every business owner that I speak to, or the sentiment across the teams that I manage, I feel like the sentiment is that they're owners of those businesses don't feel like their people are face to face enough, and it's always a constant ongoing battle. But face to face, the challenge, there are so many steps before you get face to face with someone, right? So the challenge isn't actually that's just a byproduct of the challenge. You got to take yourself 12 steps back, and it usually comes back to relationship, and it usually comes back to volume of active outbound activity, creative outreach. Has the business put enough into optimizing LinkedIn profiles? Have they put enough into teaching their staff how to put themselves out there? People don't feel comfortable getting on video, but we know that video is consumed at a much larger and faster rate than anything else, any other media, and we know that LinkedIn prefers it. So there are so many factors to say, well, you can moan all day about the people, but have you shown them the way? Have you given them the framework? Have you invested in the route? Because if you haven't, then the byproduct will be all the things you don't want, right? You can force people into that call center mentality of making 100 dials a day, but then you're in the business of churning staff, which no one wants. The industry's beyond that. It's past that now, I think. There are ways we can work smarter. So it's no wonder people aren't doing more if it's not being delivered from the top down. And even those businesses that are most successful right now in this period of down, again, if I think it's because those leaders are leading from the front. They're very active on socials. They've positioned themselves as a thought leader. They are, running value. We've a great example is a really, really good friend of mine now called Chris Redmond, who
I know Chris.
who owns Red Holt, amongst other businesses associated with his wife Amanda, and they've done it. They've done amazing things by recognising that they have to put the hard yards in. They run groups for the communities. They move into podcasting. They go for the digital nomad piece where they find the balance and they find a way that works. They really, really intelligent, clever people that are willing to lead from the front, and it's no wonder they've built a team of people doing the same thing. It's a great example of that, and I won't, but I can think of other businesses I know that are still stagnant and stale, and the use of video can no longer be argued, in my opinion, whether it be for outreach, whether it be for content, personal brand. It doesn't matter, but there are still businesses I speak to that go, that'll never catch on.
Oh yeah.
So
but you always get that. Yeah, you'll always get the naysayers and people that won't follow the trends. And I've done it this way, and this is the only way we're doing it. Yeah, it's interesting. I know Chris quite well, actually. Before I joined Hoxo, I actually bought their course. That's how I met Sean and everyone before joining them. And Chris and me were on the same cohort. Back then, I had a bald head, by the way. So yeah, COVID time. But yeah, you're right. I think like you sparked a memory in my head when I had like a 6-stage process before I book a meeting in. So I would phone someone, cold call them, and it might be 30 seconds, it might be a minute on the phone. But the idea of that call was to say, go in with an event or go in with something that I can at least send them. So the first call was my name and your head, so you know who I am. Hey, listen, what's your email? Let me send you something. We're running a roundtable event. Let me send you some information so you can take a look at it. Or we're doing a networking event. We're doing whatever. And the idea was then to send that to them, and then 2 days later, phone them and say, "Hey, I sent this forward. Did you get a chance to look at it?" "No, I didn't get a chance." "Actually, well, we've got this person speaking. This is all about it. Have you ever been to an event?" And then by the third or fourth call, within like a space of a week, I would always try and leave a reason to give them a call back, so that by the end of the fourth call, they're like, "Oh, hey, Aaron, how's it going? How's this?" Because they're familiar with the name, and I'm not sitting there trying to go, "Hey, we got this product, we got this service, come work with me," which I think building a relationship, if you're going down that, it becomes transactional. Whereas if you're leading with value and stuff that they can actually action and use and take on board, I think that's going to more bode well, which is why we're seeing the rise of personal branding, the podcast, the webinars, the stuff that's happening nowadays to lead with value. I mean, it's one of the reasons I do this podcast is, to speak to industry leaders that have a lot of advice that people can take away and action into their own business from different topics and different problems and challenges that are happening. But yeah, it's the world of sales. I think at its core, still there. Relationships absolutely key for sure, but I think there's a multitude of different ways and being smarter about being in that position to provide value.
Absolutely. Look, you can do it the other way. You can do it whatever way you want. There are people that are really successful who don't have the ambition maybe to scale as far, and they want to just take out and have a great lifestyle business that provides a phenomenal living. That works. Like, go for it. There's no. This is just my opinion. I'm not a thought leader or anyone with any real relevant opinion other than my own, and I'm just voicing it. But there will be people that completely fundamentally disagree, and that's fine. You do you, and I'll do me, and we'll both probably still be really successful. That's fine. But I just believe this to be a more effective way.
I think so. I think there's definitely a blend. Whether or not you use video, you use stuff to. I could probably guarantee if you had a face-to-face in the process at some stage, whether that be initial call, video call, whatever, to start the relationship off on the right foot, whatever it may be. But I guarantee if you meet that person face-to-face, you're going to have a higher level of relationship with them. And just what I would do is, as a bit of a test, anyone listening, is look at take 10 relationships you've got, and in those 10, like out of them, make sure 2 or 3 of them you've actually met and the other ones you haven't. If you were to phone all 10 now, I would probably say that the 3 that you've met would pick up versus the people that you haven't met.
Absolutely.
Like the amount of times I haven't met someone, tried to call them and no response, but the people I have met in good relationship, like straight away. Yeah. And especially if you're trying to control the process and kind of be on top of them and put them through the sales funnel in the process so that they have a higher chance of closing. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want, right? We want deals happening with good people, good relationships, so we have repeat business, and away we go.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree.
So with that, then, how do we get people back in the office? Because I think coming back to your point earlier about like, because I speak to people that want fully remote, and I get it. But like, if we, as a core fundamental of a hunter pack mentality of going out and building relationships and being around people that are doing the same thing, like, what's your thoughts on how do we get people actually back into the office?
Yeah, well, it's different challenges for different people, right? Like fundamentally, you've got high performers who are probably still there. They've probably always been in the office. They probably haven't changed their routine. They have a consistency to their success. You then have the middle of the road who are just consistently going to do what you need to do, but they're not going to exceed the target very often. And then you've got the low performers. So it's different. Different needs for different people, right? We know that. And fundamentally, low performers, we know that we're in an industry where if you're sustained underperformance for a sustained period of time, you're probably not going to be in that business forever, right? And that's a hard truth that people don't like, but it is a fact, right? And if you're in this industry, you have to understand that, and if you have to be a bit thick-skinned to that fact that sometimes you need to be prepared to do more to level up and get out the dip. I think I've been almost lucky in some respects that a couple of times in my career I've had serious dips, and I think a lot of people give up at that point. Whereas the one thing that will take you through the crap time is a desire and a willingness to get through to the other side, to come back up the incline again. And that's often the difference between those who might be low performing now, but actually they're fantastic, and it's the mentality that takes you through. But you've got to give everyone a different thing. So you've got to give them a benefit, and you've got to give them a culture they want to work in. You've got to give them an office they want to be in. You've got to give them an L&D opportunity to see the value in being together, to learn and get better. And if you're not offering those things, then why should they come?
Exactly that. Like the way I position it would be, if someone's at home doing calls, doing the emails, doing the activity, potentially booking in the meetings, and you're a business that's like, well, come to the office a couple of days a week, and it's exactly the same in the office where they're sitting at a desk, they're making calls, doing it, like there's no difference, right? And that's the argument. It's like, well, why do I need to spend time in the morning getting up, traveling into work, and then travel? Do you know what I mean? It's that time element as well. So I think you have to take a different look at, well, what are the reasons why people need to be in the office? Like, is it, yes, to do the work, granted, get it, but what else can you actually provide to that person, that individual, so that they actually want to come? And that could be culture, that could be your environment. Yes, absolutely. It could be definitely training, could be if you've got a table tennis table or both, no, free fruit, I hear is the real catch for people to come into the office.
I'm going to buy you pizza on a Thursday.
Yeah.
But look, I think above all, what you've got to give people is a pathway to the thing that they want, right? And the benefit to that has to be in learning and development, as I say, but it could be the next career move. It could be the salary increase. It could be getting their first house. Like whatever their individual motivation is for the person, you have to offer them that fundamentally. Otherwise, again, it's not a career, it's just a job. And why would someone be passionate about just a job? They wouldn't. I wouldn't be. I've been in just a job in the past, and that's why I don't work there anymore. But there's also the fundamental possibility of growth in earnings, income, like possibility, career growth. You have to give people that, and then they will come. Like you build it, they will come. As a saying that's said forever, build it and they will come is pretty much the kind of factor.
Bingo. Yeah, I think so. And there's definitely businesses out there that are doing it. We could take off the top of our head. I know one of your previous companies, Audro, like you see them on LinkedIn and what they're doing, and Brian in the office and stuff like that. It looks awesome. Looks like people are actually having fun. And I think if you can make the company, like the actual office, fun, where people want to come, build those connections and actually like being challenged. I think that's a big massive one. Like, don't just like, yeah, go do it, but like what's actually challenging that person to then get them to the next stage. I think that's a big driver for a lot of people. And can
Yeah.
they get that from being in the office rather than being at home? For sure. And you mentioned earlier about like dips. I've definitely been in massive dips. Like, you know, pip performance reviews, not all that sort of stuff. Which were great, which is what I needed at the time, right? And I think just kind of like the overarching, if we're talking about relationships are hard to build. They are, right? And notoriously they can take time. So there will be times in the business that you're potentially at that, you know, as long as you're doing the activity and doing everything to start those relationships, I think that's what people will look at rather than just doing deals.
Yeah.
Because if a business is really driving that relationship, they'll know that it takes, you know, 3 6 months to really nurture that to be in a position where that, you know, they buy or they become really good friends. I mean, I've got people I haven't even worked with, I haven't even placed with, that are like, I'll bring them out. I've been barbecues, been Sunday lunches, everything with them. So
Yeah,
it's the power of that. But
yeah,
interesting though. I really like the point of like what people should be doing to get people back in the office, because I think we swang like you're talking about that pension. We swang with like fully remote, and then like people are gonna now it's a bit of a hybrid, somewhere in the middle. I don't think you need to be in 5 days a week. I think when I get my office, my team, I probably think 2 3 days, but those days will be very specific to training and, you know, developing that person.
yeah. It's
You know,
face
at
to
home they
face
can do
stuff.
whatever they do.
Yeah, it's face to face stuff. It's moving deals
Mm.
along the pipeline together. It's
Yep.
sharing information. It's training. It's one to ones, and it's moving people forward. It's, you know,
Mm.
just ticking it forward ever so slightly every single time. That's the value. If you're just together just to be together, what's the
Right.
point, right?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
there's no point. There's got to be value to that time together. Absolutely, there's got to be value to that time together. I mean, to that point, like, I fly away from my family 350 miles every single week, you know, to be with the team. Like every week, like, I'll make that commitment because I believe in it.
Mm.
It's easy just to say it, but you've got to live it out. Like you've got to live
Yeah.
it out. Much prefer if I could just commute half an hour to my house every day. But there's a wider goal and a bigger thing happening, and there's a lot of people that need time and need facilitating their success. And I'm the guy that's supposed to be in the centre of it. So if I'll commit my time to it, I expect people to commit to it as well, you know?
Yeah, and I think that funnels into the hiring process as well, right? You know, if you've got a specific environment, look for specific people that want to be in the office. Not, I'm speaking to more people now that actually like, no, I prefer being in the office. Get me out of these four walls. Get me out of the house. Like, I think people are kind of like a little bit up to here, just like
Yeah,
constantly working remote, which I'm not too like that because I'm just pure focus. It's just me. But once I
yeah,
have
of
a team,
course.
yeah, cool.
Yeah,
But listen, I think you've given so much advice there and so many thought-provoking ideas and actions people can really start to think about their own. If they are looking to get people into the office, what should they actually be doing? Like, how should they design it? What should they implement? So really appreciate that. And obviously, yes, relationships is at the key. So I guess looking at your sales team, like, are you really pushing face-to-face meetings? If you yourself know face-to-face is going to move that deal along further, like, it has to be part of the process. And then the
yeah,
challenge is then how do we get the people that are coming through now that are used to more online into really buying into the value of meeting face to face. So yeah, really
yeah.
appreciate that, Nick.
Absolutely. Not a problem. Thanks for inviting me on. Cue
So
the
I
onslaught of people with differing opinions
go on, mate.
telling me who I really am.
You're all bollocks, Nick. You're all bollocks. But
Exactly.
you know,
10
in
years,
tradition of sorry, go on ahead.
I was going to say 10 years in sales gives you a thick skin, so bring it on.
That's it. That's it, mate. Love it. So just to close off the show, just a few last questions. Obviously, yeah, you've been in sales for a long time. So, what would you say throughout your whole career in sales? Like, what's been the biggest highlight for you?
Do you know, I've been asked this once before. It's a hard one to answer because there are different reasons, right? So one for my own financial gain, it's closing certain values and
Sure.
deals, or it's um, when when I was at when I was at Audro 2018, right? We were tiny. There was six of us there, right? And we were in an office, just 6 of us, and a dog, and we were trying to think of all these creative ways to outreach people. So I had this madcap idea. A friend of mine, I don't know why, had an old typewriter. So I had this madcap idea. I'm going to typewrite a letter to 10 top prospects. Was it 10 or 20, whatever it was, right? I think we ended on 10 because I realised very quickly every time you hit the wrong key, you had to start again, right? So I think we landed in about 10. And then we got a Polaroid photograph of me typing, and I sent it to 10 prospects. And I thought, right, I'll send it to their office. This was prior to COVID. Everyone was in the office every day. But I forgot to send them recorded, so I had no idea whether they actually turned up. But one of those prospects, it took from 2018 to this year to close, and a big enterprise customer. But we got there, and that's the value of relationship, right? But that's one of my proudest moments, because I used to call them my white whale, right? I used to talk about my white whale, and like Dougie, Lone, and Gianni, they'll recognise this and laugh. But I used to talk about my white whale, and we signed them as an enterprise customer at my previous business there, right? So that's one of my really, really proud moments because of the effort required over just the time. But then there's other things like coming out of recruitment and going into tech sales was a whirlwind, and going in and closing 2.2 million of business in a 2.5-3 year period was another massive highlight of mine. A very transactional business. There's an awful lot of customers in that. But then flip it again, and you've got team members achieving the things they've wanted, and people coming into the business and me asking them, well, what is it you really want? Like, what's your desire out of this? And it's promotion or money or the first house, or I want to go to the Maldives with my girlfriend and propose, and seeing those things play out for those people. Like, they're really, really proud moments, and being a small part of that journey and helping someone get there. So it's really hard to pinpoint into one, because for loads of reasons there are loads of different things. But what I can say is the most rewarding part of my career has been in sales leadership, for sure. Seeing other people achieve the things they want to achieve has been the most rewarding, and seeing people get out of it and understanding that if they put more in, they'll get more out. That's big.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's because we throughout the interview process, we not sell the dream, but like the opportunity is there. It comes down to you as an individual, that dedication, that performance, etc. I mean, that's all lined out for them to go do it, and then they go do it with your help and guidance. Like nothing better than just like, come on, yes, let's go. You never know. They go to Seychelles, they go to Mauritius or wherever. And you're in the beach beside them going, hey, sorry, I had just kiboshed your holiday. was sharing your success. But good, mate. I think all of the above, that's awesome. Highlights throughout your career. And I guess just to wrap up the show, if you just want to plug in kind of the business, like what you're doing right now, if you're hiring, and if people want to reach out to you that don't know you, how should they contact you?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, because this is the first time I've told anyone, because I've just started. But basically, I work for the Access Group. I work specifically for the recruitment division, and I'm heading new business across what was be known as the recruitment operating system, the RecOS. So that's centred around Vincere as a CRM product for the recruitment sector, and it would then be website, content management, diversity and inclusion, screening, and all those tools that build in. And basically what the Access Group have successfully done is build an almost entire loop from the start to the end of the recruitment life cycle. All owned by one person, all built on one platform, all acquired as best-in-class technology. And it is a powerhouse of an organisation which is going through a bit of a resurgence right now after an interesting couple of years of a number of acquisitions. The elephant in the room is it's been a topic of discussion across the industry, and that's a massive part of what's coming in now. There's been an awful lot of change in the organisation, an awful lot of desire to show the power and the capability that it has, and to really drive change across the industry. And I believe that that's part of that, and I'm here to hopefully be part of that too. So if you're looking at any of your RecTech sort of tech stack and looking to consolidate that into one platform of best-in-class technology, then get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm very often on there giving the thumbs up on a video, because I can't get away from the habit of doing it. Or contact any of the team, because there's a brilliant sales team there that I know an awful lot more about the product suite than I do right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm excited though. I know you can't probably share everything that's going to go on, but yeah, I use Vincherry, so yeah, excited to see what the developments are and how it all
Yeah,
pans out over the next 6 months to a year. So exciting time. So awesome, mate. Well, listen, thanks very much for taking time today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and yeah, I'll bid you all the best in your new role.
ideal. Thank you, mate. Thanks for inviting me on. It's been good to have a chat. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Bye now.
See you later. Bye.
What an episode there with Nick. Absolutely loved that. Loads of stuff to really provoke a lot of thoughts in your head about what are you actually doing to drive your sales team to increase performance based on relationships. So is it bringing them to the office, not necessarily for them to do the exact same job and activities that they can do at home, but like what are you actually doing and developing internally so that when they do come to the office, they actually are getting something out of it that's going to progress their career forward. We know the importance of relationships. We know the importance that, from a human perspective, of meeting people face to face. That builds relationships, stronger relationships, a lot better than just potentially being over the phone or over video. So we obviously dived into the reasons why that is at the moment and why that's kind of been laid to the wayside. And there's been this massive trend of just doing everything over video and online. But if you really truly want to build strong relationships with your customers and your ICP, face to face is obviously the way to go, right? So, how are you actually implementing face to face KPIs or activities for people to go out, meet your customers, so that you can actually continue the process to be able to have a higher chance of securing that deal in the future? So, hopefully, you've taken away a lot of things that have stirred a lot of ideas in your own head that you can implement into your own business. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye bye.